Welcome to the Biohackers Live Show. My name is Dr. Olli Sovijärvi, and today our topic is how to reverse aging and extend lifespan and health span. Today, Teemu Harina couldn't make it, but we have our favorite guest, Siim Land, who is really an expert also on this topic. And we're going to spend an hour and a half discussing about the hallmarks of aging, how can we like prevent our degradation of the body and the mind, and keep ourselves thriving, energetic, and first and foremost healthy. To actually have some healthy years and functional years increased into our lifespan and health span. But first, I would like to remind you that our next huge event, the Biohackers Summit, is totally concentrating on this topic, reversing aging and extending health span. So you are most welcome to beautiful summer Finland in the 3rd and 4th of June in 2022 in Helsinki, Finland. So go to biohackersummit.com and we have some special Black Week discounts for all of you. But shortly, what is the Biohacker Summit? Maybe you have been there or maybe you haven't. But I think this is like maybe the 11th or even the 12th Biohacker Summit we are organizing. And this year, due to COVID and all kinds of restrictions and, well, you know the story, we haven't organized any event, but this event will be even bigger and better. And let's just see what you are going to have and why this is so important topic, because at least a quarter, even almost a half of the population live with multiple chronic conditions, and those could be easily fixed with lifestyle factors. And when it comes to biohacking, which is actually preventive health, it's also about optimizing human performance and well-being with the help of latest science, technological interventions, nature, top expert, data-driven self-experiments, and so on. We want to actually move from lifespan to health span. And this is also what we are going to be discussing with Siim Land today. It's not point into living into an old age if you are spending like the last 30 years in like a daycare type of conditions that you cannot actually have a functional, really thriving body. For who is the Biohacker Summit? We have had like guests from over 30, even 40 different countries, consisting of entrepreneurs, investors, innovators, early adopters first and foremost, but also medical and wellness professionals, even academics and designers, and maybe like you who seems to be a health and wellness enthusiast. So it doesn't matter where in the world you are coming from, you are most welcome to Helsinki to the Biohacker Summit. We have over 40 top keynote speakers, and we cover all kinds of topics ranging from longevity and life extension to psychology, self-improvement, immune system improvement, gut health, sleep, circadian biology, nervous system, brain health. We go deep into the nutrition, metabolism, fasting and ketogenic diet benefits, and especially like the fasting benefits, calorie restriction, but also natural elements including water, cold, heat, light, and electromagnetic exposure, biomechanics, resilience, stress management, optimal recovery, and of course a big part of all this is quantifying yourself with the latest wearables and genetic and lab testing. The exhibition area is going to be massive. It's going to be packed with all kinds of biohacking equipment and therapy devices. This is like a dream come true for a true biohacker if you are really into all kinds of gadgets and supplements and different nutritional things that you can actually try right in the exhibition area. We have biomedical testing, biomarker analysis, different wearables, apps, digital health, all kinds of things for physical exercise and sports equipment, wellness and health services, and so on and so on and so on. And of course, our food is nothing but the latest and the best in the quality. So you will enjoy and have steady energy levels throughout the exhibition and throughout the summit. And this is actually the thermogenic spa. This is probably one of our most welcomed and most liked part of the exhibition and the summit. And people when they're not when they're having like enough of knowledge coming into the different kind of keynotes, they can go and have a little relax, have a little cold, hot or heat alteration, and jump into the Finnish sauna, or even hop into the cold plunge, or even to the ocean. So this is absolutely a beautiful experience for the 2 days that the summit is going to cover. But that's not all. We have the upgrade dinner. This is usually on Wednesdays or Thursdays, actually Thursdays before the summit begins. It's a 5-course dinner prepared for yourself by leading chef Sami Tolberg, and of course we are there as well, me, Teemu Arina, and Jaakko Halmetoja, and other top biohackers. And the point of this is that fine dining is kind of last season. You get small portions, which are beautiful, but you don't actually get what your body craves, which is nutrient-dense, super high-quality seasonal food that actually get you filled and satisfied, but being at the same time very delicious. So everything is upgraded with the latest culinary kitchen techniques and also careful attention to the biochemistry. And after party, a summit wouldn't be and nothing without the after party, the ecstatic beach party inside actually, but you get your bare feet to the sand, plus 26 degrees on the beach, and absolutely amazing ecstatic dance music. You have sauna, yoga, live concerts in there, and actually I'm also going to play a DJ set there, so I'm really looking forward to this ecstatic dance. Yeah. So what else? If you are a true biohacker and you really want to get hands-on, immersive and exclusive retreat, you want to go to the Optimized Day workshop. This is usually like sold out very quickly, so I recommend that if you want to have a full day of Optimized Day with myself, Teemu Arina, Seamland, Jaakko Halmetoja, Lee Evin, Jani Toivonen, and a bunch of different experts on different fields of biohacking, and you want to get yourself an immersive experience in the traditional Finnish sauna, ice swimming in the Baltic Sea, and sound healing experience, and of course really culinary ketogenic breakfast, lunch and dinner, this is certainly for you. And the venue, it's absolutely beautiful, covering a total of 56,000 square meters, the Gable Factory. And the 2020 summit, what was arranged there, it's by the seaside. You can go outside in the thermogenic spa, have a really fresh air experience there, and then go inside to experience the exhibition. So welcome to the Biohacker Summit. The Black Friday discounts are valid from 5 days from now, and it gets really cheap if you buy 3 or more tickets. So that's only 147 euros. So this is the cheapest price it will be ever. If you're wanting to have a VIP experience, you can also get a group discount on that. Or if you just want to enjoy the live streaming, that's also possible. So everything and much more in the biohackersummit.com. And before we get off with Seamland, we have a Black Week. We have the Black Week. The Black Friday is coming, but we have every day different kind of offerings in the Biohacker Center store. Yesterday was optimizing your sleep. The products are still there, up to half of the price. Today is optimizing work and performance. So just go to the biohackercenter.com store, and you will find different kind of supplements, even half the price, technology, gene tests, lab tests, and so on. All right, I think I've had a long enough monologue by myself, and let's welcome Mr. Simland. How are things in Estonia?
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, we actually had our first snow for this year yesterday, and it was like a pretty big snowstorm. Almost, I came with a big snowstorm in, uh, but today it was kind of already starting to melt, so we didn't last
Yeah.
long. But
Same
yeah,
same stuff here.
regardless, it was the kind of cool to see some snow. Other than that, it's the I don't know, like Estonia is kind of really leading the charts with the with the corona cases and stuff like that. But it appears to be stabilizing for the time being now already as well. So yeah, other than that, it's going pretty well with me.
Good. And you're a resilient being. You are really adjustable, and what happens outside doesn't really matter that much. Whether it's snow, whether it's a storm, whether it's a pandemic.
Hmm.
You still keep on going. And what are our topics today? What are you going to talk about? I know you have like
Yeah.
a bunch of different like stuff like that goes really deep into the hallmarks of aging and reversing aging and
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
We're gonna talk about lifespan, longevity, and health span to discuss like the differences, etc. I do have like some slides I think we can share. I can basically start with them
yeah,
immediately.
let's begin with your introduction into the what is actually aging, what does it mean, and how can we prevent about that, and then we're going to have a discussion, and I'm gonna pick up some questions
Hmm.
every now and then. So feel free to comment and have questions so that we can hopefully have a good answer to you guys.
Awesome.
Let's go, Sim.
All right. So, as you can see from this chart, then the average life expectancy in that is that like the developed countries has increased quite a lot over the last few centuries, and it's doubled. The current is around like 79, 80 years of age, the life expectancy, and it's steadily been increasing. The main reasons for that has to do with just people getting better access to medical care, and not not getting like a tooth infection or something like that would kill them off, and the infant mortality has been decreasing quite a lot, which is the reasons why this number has been increasing. Like people in the past, they still lived quite long, but this is just that their risk of dying prematurely was much higher, and with the development of science and medicine and just safety in the developed world, the just your risk of dying to some sort of random things like infections and accidents, those kind of things, has been decreasing. But the problem is that as you can see from this chart, also the United States has been actually hit a plateau, and it since like 2018, this number has been slightly decreasing. Like it's a very small decrease, like 0.4 or 0.6 years. But it goes to show that even like some developed countries that don't follow necessarily all the good practices of health and vitality, then they can still start to see a decline in their life expectancy. And like you said already quite nicely, is that there's a difference between just living long and being fully healthy and vibrant. So the just living long means that you can be kept alive with medicine and pills and you're hospitalized, etc., which doesn't describe really like a high quality life. Whereas health span refers to just the length of healthy years that you have, of where you're able to be in full health, of being functional, being vital, and having good health. That refers to health span. And I think that a lot of the conversation is starting to shift towards increasing health span, not just lifespan, because yeah, it's very costly to keep people alive with meds and the pills. Whereas if people were able to stay young and healthy themselves, then obviously it's just increases the quality of their life, while at the same time just makes everyone else and the entire society kind of a better place to be in as well. A lot of people would prefer, I think, the health span of being in full health compared to being kept alive with just with the technology. So the health span, you can also call it squaring the curve, which just means that, yeah, you're maintaining this good health and then you drop off kind of rapidly. So instead of slowly declining already in your 40s and 30s or 50s, you maintain the full health until your later years, like 70s and 80s, and then you drop dead, which is squaring the curve. And it is like a compressed morbidity is also called what is called, that your morbidity period is much compressed and shorter compared to as most people already say that they're old in their 40s, which isn't actually the case. Like if you look at the average life expectancy, which is like 79 and 80 years old, then 40 years old is only the 50% of your life, which is, the 50% of your life is still ahead of you. And if you start to suffer already in your 40s, then that's not really like a good life that you will want to live. So you want to square the curve and drop dead rapidly instead of gradually. And what are the things that determine that, health span? I think a lot of people know that just, the healthy lifestyle habits, avoiding poor lifestyle habits, it's going to have like a huge effect on the longevity as well as the health span of the individual. And your body is always, detecting different kinds of signals from the environment. And those signals are all things like food, exercise, your landscape, your light exposure, your toxin exposure, like alcohol, and what kind of pills they're taking, and those kind of things. They're all like signals that have this epigenetic response on the body that will affect health span and longevity. So all things, DNA methylation is one of the things that is very tightly associated with aging and lifespan, but just, overall good health that is determined by the inputs that your body receives. And the good health itself is just the output of being healthy. And this is kind of the information theory of aging that, Dr. David Sinclair also talks about, or he coined the term information theory of aging, that your body ages based upon the information, the epigenetic information that it receives from the environment. There are also many kind of reasons why we age in the first place. Like you can't postpone aging indefinitely. You're gonna eventually die. You will experience the speed differently. Some people age faster than others, and there have been identified quite a few of these hallmarks of aging. There's 9 of them here that are considered to be the reasons why we experience aging in the first place, and why we experience accelerated aging in some other cases. And those are the primary ones that cause physical deterioration of the body and damage are genomic instability, telomere attrition, epigenetic alterations, loss of proteostasis. Then there's these antagonistic hallmarks that are responses to the damage, deregulated nutrient sensing, mitochondrial dysfunction, cellular senescence, and lastly, there are integrative hallmarks, which are the culprits of the phenotype, and these are stem cell exhaustion and altered intracellular communication. There's also one additional one that Olli can talk about, but I kind of think the main reasons for the, let's say, aging itself can be summed up with some sort of like physical damage that the body experiences, and that damage just essentially reduces the healthy functioning of the body, sends like an improper signal to the body, accumulates damage, and the body just wears down. So kind of the wear and tear is still one of the main, let's say, principles of aging, and one of the main characteristics is the wear and tear, that your body just can't keep up with the damage and eventually starts to age in response. Olli, do you want to mention the addition?
Yeah, it has to do with the wear and tear. So we can take a look at the one slide, which is actually, there's usually, like has been traditionally, 9 hallmarks of aging, and that your study you referenced was from 2013, and the researchers have been found that the 10th sign of aging is the extracellular matrix stiffness or stiffening, and also the dysregulation. So this means basically the outside of the cell structure, which has a kind of like a network throughout the body. It is attached to different kind of fascia, and we have different fascial lines. So if that becomes very stiff, which means that your body becomes stiff, when you have these cellular and extracellular changes. So if you take a look at the people who are getting old and taking a look at their posture, their mobility, so usually they go like this, and the body posture goes more likely into this kind of a posture of a baby who's just been born. So you kind of like go like come from there, and then you open up yourself. Hopefully you drive, you're open, your body and your mobility is well functioning, and of course when you die, the body is eventually going to have a disruption, and it kind of breaks down bit by bit. So I've been following my wife's grandfather's path. He's about to become 100 years old. Wow. And he's still living in like this care home for old people, and of course his moving is not very good, and his hearing is not very good, but his brain is pretty sharp, and it's incredible how like tough, like mentally tough this guy is, and maybe it has to do with the thing that he went through, like world wars, like even the First World War as a youngster, and then the Second World War, and having built resilience. I still remember like maybe 5-6 years ago, he was actually helping me to cut off our like huge garden fence, and he was like, "Oh, let me use this machine," like being 95 years old, and so until that point he was like very functionable, but now maybe the last 4 or 5 years he's been like steadily going down, but living into a functional life on like into your 90s and even hundreds, it's totally doable. But that's a little side story. So go ahead, Sim, and continue.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm gonna continue on with some of the things that we know that help with longevity, some of the things that we do know that increase health span and the quality of life. And one of the main ones is actually just having muscle mass and strength. So there is a lot of research, very clear research, showing that people, especially elderly, who have more muscle mass, then they're healthier, they live longer, they have less accidents or less, let's say, hospitalization, they're more functional. And just muscle mass itself appears to be, and strength appears to be a huge predictor of overall mortality and longevity. And I think the biggest reasons for that, can be because the muscle mass is very beneficial for metabolic health and body composition, but it's also just, prevents the person from experiencing frailty and osteoporosis and things like that. So if you have very little muscle mass, then you can just, break a hip and die to even just that, because your recovery is very vulnerable, very dangerous for an elderly person to break a hip or break a bone, because sarcopenia, it's the muscle loss, it's gonna be accelerated much more if you're also immobile and not able to move around because of your broken bone and stuff. So people who have more muscle mass, then they break the bones less in the first place, and they also recover from those things much faster, which is important. And even your younger years, having more muscle mass is going to be much better for your overall metabolic health. So your risk factors for cardiovascular disease and neurodegeneration and metabolic syndrome and even cancer will go down if you're just metabolically more healthy, and muscle and strength are great ways to make that happen. The problem is that, as you get older, your muscle and strength tend to naturally decrease because you're producing less of these anabolic hormones and things like that. So you should take advantage of building and maintaining muscle throughout your entire life, especially in this adulthood, because it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, buddy.
Once you get into your 30s or 40s, or I would say 40s is still a very good time to build muscle. That's how you can easily do it. but in your 50s or 60s, it can become slightly harder and more difficult.
Yeah, my intention, like I'm 42, is to build and maintain muscle mass in my 40s as much as possible, and it seems to be pretty doable. So I don't see that much of a difference being in my 30s or 40s, or actually it seems to be even a bit easier now. So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
like a lot of people can also get the false impression that building muscle and strength, that means that you need to be like a bodybuilder or a powerlifter,
Yeah,
and which isn't the case. Like it just means that you just need to do some resistance training or do something that
yes, the
stimulates the muscles
resistance.
in a way. Yeah, it doesn't have to. You don't even have to be like super jacked. Like it would be cool and nice to be muscular and old at the same time and look good, but at the same time, it's not necessarily the one that is going to drive the biggest results. You don't need to be super strong. You don't need to be super muscular. You just need to do something that keeps the muscle there. So that the body, if you don't have the signal to keep the muscle, then the body isn't going to keep it around either.
Yeah, I have a couple of slides. Do you want me to show them now? I could actually.
Yeah, you can do it.
What comes to like exercise. So I was just interested about what actually does the exercise do, and we're now talking about strength training, but actually also just basic activity. So this is from 2020, and it's an association of daily step count and step intensity with mortality in the US adults, and there's 5,000 people in the study and a 10-year follow-up. So this was pretty interesting. So it seems that if you have like more than 8,000 steps, your mortality rate is only like 0.7%. And if you compare it to those who have less than 4,000 steps, so that's like a 4,000 plus difference. So the mortality rate is 10 times higher in those who have like under 4,000 step than those who have over 8,000 steps. So of course, counting steps, it's not really be all end all, but it's a good like measurement how basically active you are throughout the day. So you could do stuff that doesn't count as a step if you're just measuring steps, but you can still like kind of gain steps. So but basic activity throughout the day, it's a way to live a longer life. And here's a study from 2015 from the European Journal of Internal Medicine. It's a review article on muscular strength and as a strong predictor of mortality. So this was kind of a narrative review and going through different studies and meta studies. And the highlights seem to be that muscular strength is universally and independently associated with all-cause mortality. So the better the strength, the lower your mortality seems to be. And it has been reported in different clinical populations. So this is kind of like a global phenomenon. And it's a modifiable risk factor of great public interest. So what does this mean is that to encourage people to have resistance training to increase their, like, let's say it's just basic grip strength. So the grip strength is also something that has been used in many studies. Even if you take a look at the slide, even about half of the studies, there's muscular testing has to do with the hand grip strength because it's quite easy to do, but it's also a very good marker to really evaluate what your strength aspect is. And other studies have taken a look at some kind of isometric testing or maximal like leg strength, like quadricep strength, maximal bench press, and knee extension. But if you have a good grip strength, usually you can pull off, let's say, from the floor or from the bar, or you can lift heavy stuff, and that's usually a very good correlation to what comes to strength. And I would encourage just to test your grip strength and see how you do compared to your age group and your sex. So we actually have the tables in the Biohackers Handbook. And if you're in the top, let's say top quintile, then you're doing like pretty well.
Yeah.
And one more thing is leisure time physical activity and mortality. So this is evaluated in metabolic equivalent like hours per week. So it seems that even as minimal as 7.5 met hours per week, which isn't that much, you get a tremendous benefit when it comes to like all-cause mortality. And the optimal point seems to be 22.5 met hours per week. And there's a diminishing curve. So if you're like a super endurance athlete, then there isn't extra health benefits, and it might get even a little bit worse. But still, being like very active is beneficial. And this is from the Biohacker's Handbook. So the MET stands for metabolic equivalent. It represents the increased energy expenditure caused by physical activity when it's compared to the amount of energy used at rest. And one MET unit is equivalent to the oxygen consumption of the basal metabolic rate. So if you're not doing anything, just sitting, that's one. For example, everyday activities such as eating, washing, and riding have a MET value of 2, and brisk walking can be MET value of 5 or 6. And let's say you chop some wood, that's already a 6, and play some basketball, or even like do some strenuous rowing, you go more towards like the 10 and over 10. So basically, this also comes into the point that being physically active throughout the day is really key to aging, or like preventing aging. All right, Jim, go ahead and continue.
Yeah. No, those are awesome points. And there's also like easy ways to assess your grip strength just at home. You use the grip dynamometer, or what's it called? So that you just squeeze, and it tells you how strong your grip is. And that's like almost like an at-home aging test that you can do.
And you can train it with Captain's Crush, like these grip strengthers. So I every now and then I get these and do when I'm in the infrared zone. I just do like practice my grip strength. But if you do like lifting, that's all automatically good practice for grip strength.
Yeah, well, not always the case. Like you can do a lot of these exercises that don't really train the grip, or if you use the straps, etc., then you can take out the tension from the grip. So you actually using like specific grip strength exercises is a great way to do, like deadlifts, and farmers carries are great for that. Just hanging from bar with weights, for example, can be a good way to strengthen the grip. And
lifting stones with one hand. So that's
kettlebells are also pretty good.
And throwing kettlebells and catching them, and so you can play around with that. So, but do not do that like inside. Maybe outside is better.
Yeah, that's right. All right, I'm gonna move on with the next one.
Yeah.
The next slide. The next topic is gonna be the one that is associated with longevity and lifespan, is a calorie restriction, and is actually one of the surest ways we know how to extend the lifespan in almost all species, and that's calorie restriction, eating less. From this graph, you see these were mice fed slightly fewer calories, and that they lived in proportion longer, like in proportion to the amount of calories restricted. And this age in months, and the ones restricted 15% of calorie restriction, they lived slightly longer, but those who were restricted 50 to 60%, then they lived exponentially longer, even like double the amount of time. So yeah, it's the same applies to like monkeys. There's a lot of studies, monkeys, hamsters, or and things like that. There is, when it comes to humans, then there are like some studies that find that calorie restriction does at least reduce a lot of these risk factors associated with any kind of metabolic syndrome and the hallmarks of aging.
Just to interrupt you quickly, your camera is a bit blurred, so maybe you can
turn it off
just a little bit.
Wait.
There's some good comments and questions here. So there's a point that if a person is very obese or highly overweight, walking may be too painful and traumatic to the joints, and that's absolutely correct. So a joint friendly movement. So steps is, it's as I said, it's kind of like a, it has to do also only with walking, but you can count steps if you're, let's say, rowing, which is a very good exercise, and everything in the water. So that can also be counted as steps. So yeah, and now seam is not anymore blurred.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, and there are reasons why calorie restriction works. So, like, what are the reasons why people or the animals and species live longer under calorie restriction? So, one of the reasons has to do with, let's say, mitochondrial biogenesis. So, it helps to grow mitochondria and prevents the mitochondria from becoming damaged, which is crucial as the mitochondria become damaged. And or the mitochondrial dysfunction was one of the hallmarks of aging, and the mitochondria are linked to any kind of other process inside the body as well. Then the calorie restriction does suppress the insulin and IGF-1 pathway, which will have a positive effect on suppressing some of the growth signals. So like mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin, this is like the body's growth switch, and it can be, in some cases, be linked to like cancers and aging, but it's mostly done in like other species. In humans, there isn't like a lot of research about that. What calorie restriction also does is that it suppresses inflammation, which can be good for better intercellular communication and just the epigenetic side, that causes less damage to the body. Again, one cool thing about this is that you turn on also these different kinds of longevity genes and proteins inside the body, like the FOXO proteins, which then help to control things like the antioxidant defense systems, superoxide dismutases, and DNA repair processes, sirtuins, which help with DNA repair, and they also do other things related to like the circadian rhythms and the BGC1 alpha. And lastly, they can also be the process of autophagy gets increased during calorie restriction, which describes basically one of the hallmarks of aging is loss of proteostasis, which kind of describes the inability to remove these dysfunctional parts inside the cell, and autophagy is the process that cleans them out. So with increased autophagy, you again target one of the hallmarks of aging, and you also target mitochondrial dysfunction with autophagy, because autophagy also eliminates dysfunctional mitochondria that cause inflammation and spread oxidative stress. But there's also research that when it comes to calorie restriction, then it's not always calorie restriction that is working, so to say. And let's say in cases of genetic mutations and genetic engineering in mice, then autophagy is actually one of the crucial ones to mediate a lot of the benefits of calorie restriction. So if you block the process of autophagy because the mice are genetically modified in a way that they don't get autophagy, then they don't also live longer, even when they are fed less calories. So it appears that at least in mice, the autophagy process is very crucial for making sure that you do get the increased lifespan from calorie restriction. So this brings me to intermittent fasting, which is a good way to mimic a lot of the effects of calorie restriction. So the idea of eating, less calories for the rest of your life isn't that appealing for most people, and it's more difficult. It's not sustainable. It's not very, it's not very easy to do.
And it's kind of contradictory if you want to build muscle and strength and at the same time be calorie restricted. So how to find the balance?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's obviously you need to be I think you need to be still on the calorie restriction every once in a while, and periodically, but you don't want to be, or you don't need to be doing it all the time. And being chronically on the calorie restriction can be problematic from the muscle building and muscle maintenance side, which is where doing some form of intermittent fasting can mimic a lot of those effects of calorie restriction by basically turning on the same pathways and mimicking the same effects, such as fasting increases autophagy, increases DNA repair, it reduces insulin, reduces mTOR, reduces IGF-1, and improves mitochondrial health and other kind of beneficial things, the FOXO proteins, the sirtuins, those old things get turned on with some aspects of intermittent fasting as well. So you don't need to necessarily be doing calorie restriction, but you don't want to be overeating calories either. So you still want to be like moderate with your calories, but chances are you can get away with reducing your calories slightly less if you do some form of intermittent fasting. And how much intermittent fasting, I think that's also like we don't know what's the best window, and the window kind of changes based upon the goals, I would imagine. And yeah, I think the idea is to just like not be constantly eating and snacking all the time.
Yeah. You know, even like small children, they do natural intermittent fasting because they're sleeping so much. So if they
Yeah.
sleep, let's say like 10 to 12 hours per day, that's already a beneficial point in having like not eating. Of course, they need to eat to grow, and that's more than just once or twice a day. But for us, older people, you don't have to be eating all the time. So, but this is something we have been discussing quite a bit in the past, and that's just one aspect in this process. And maybe we can talk. Do you still have more slides, or
Well, next I'm going to talk about NAD, but we can skip it.
yeah, maybe we can stick to a little bit on the calorie restriction side. And there are certain supplements and biochemical like substances that can mimic calorie restriction. And we had a previous webinar on spermidine. So if you haven't seen that, go check the Biohacker Summit YouTube channel and see a brilliant discussion on spermidine from the Oxford Health Span. And of course their product is really remarkable in this side. But I've collected some calorie restriction mimetics into our forthcoming The Resilient Being book, and actually I think this is a good place to mention about our new book. So it's let's see, I'm digging the landing page. So if you just go to landing.biohackingbook.com .resilient-being. So this is it's gonna be super massive. So there's already like 500 pages in, and I think we have been writing maybe half of the book at the moment. So it's gonna be about 1,000 pages, and there's a lot of stuff going into this book, whether it's a physical resilience, the stuff we are talking now, reversing aging and extending health span, whether it's trauma and emotional healing, ego and shadows, consciousness transcendence, or just biochemical like the immune system, hormones, metabolism, nervous system. So a lot of topics in there, and you can see the full listing on the side. And this is going to be a really epic and really comprehensive book, and hopefully we get this out in a year. It might extend because we want to do really precise work as we have been doing with the biohacking book. But you can pre-order now, the cheapest price you will ever get on this book, plus some extras. So go to our Resilient Being landing page. But let's move to the calorie restriction mimetics. So there are nutritional compounds and ingredients that mimic the effects of calorie restriction without necessarily doing the calorie restriction. But of course, if you combine an actual calorie restriction with these calorie restriction mimetics, that it's probably even more beneficial. Not that you are doing like it all the time, but every now and then. So the calorie restriction mimetics, they promote autophagy in 3 different ways. They are provoking the depletion of so-called acetyl coenzyme A or HC-CoA, or inhibiting the activity of several acetyl transferases, or activating so-called deacetylases. So we can take a look at the image here. So this is actually from our book and the contextual resilience chapter. This is non-edited stuff at the moment, but we can certainly see what kind of things we have there. So this is categorized based on these three different processes. So whether it's like a depletion of the acetyl-CoA A, so we have like the hydroxy citrate. There's Garcinia gambogia, which is I think it's pretty known supplement. I played around with that, every now and then, but I don't find it to be like really that effective, or it makes me feel a bit funny. I don't know how to explain that. Have you played around that, Seam, the Garcinia?
No, I haven't. I haven't like taken a lot of calorie restriction mimetics besides like some of the basic ones.
Yeah.
That you can talk about later, but not this one.
Okay. So that's the main acetyl-CoA A mimetic. Then we have inhibitors of the acetyltransferases. These are probably a bit more familiar to you guys. There's curcumin, there's EG, CG from the green tea, spermidine, as I mentioned, and we have a substance called anacardic acid, which is in cashew nut shells. So that's pretty interesting. Who eats cashew nut shells? So maybe that's an extract. We have a garcinol and also the gallic acid, which is found, for example, in cacao or flax seeds and apples and walnuts. And then we have the third category, which are activators of the protein deacetylases, and that's mainly sirtuin-1. And Seam is going to talk a little bit about NAD and sirtuins in a moment. And we have resveratrol from different plants, berries, red grape skin, and of course as a supplement. That's something that David Sinclair raves about, and he even puts that into his coffee. And I don't know what brand he uses, but I tried to put some dried, just pure resveratrol into my coffee, and it made it taste absolutely horrible. So I wouldn't I wouldn't
Well, if
recommend.
you want to live longer, then you gotta suck it up a little bit.
You gotta suffer. I also want to enjoy my coffee, tasting good. But hey, you gotta try. If a professor is doing something, you gotta try it. We have quercetin, found also in different plants like red onion, kale, red grapes, green tea. We have picyanethanol, that's a Norwegian spruce or passion fruit, red grapes. We have NMN as a supplement, and NR or nicotinamide riboside as a supplement, and that's also something in the biohacking world, or these two are raving about. So a lot of stuff available in the nutritional side, and let's not go yet into the disadvantages of prolonged calorie restriction, but just to mention that you don't want to starve yourself either. So finding the good homeostasis and balance, it's the key.
Yeah.
Okay, Seam, you are on.
All right, so we talk about NAD then.
Yeah.
So a lot of the hallmarks of aging can be caused by low levels of NAD, and NAD is a nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and that's like of this coenzyme in the body that is involved with almost everything as well, and it mostly has an effect on energy production and DNA repair and those kind of things. And without NAD, then you're going to experience very much almost identical of these hallmarks of aging, that mitochondrial dysfunction, cellular senescence, DNA damage, nutrient sensing gets messed up, and telomere attrition as well. With age, you can also see that with age, your NAD levels do decrease quite a lot. Like it's almost like more than 50% gets decreased after your 40 years of age. And obviously there's different ways to boost NAD, and people use NAD boosters like exercise. All the healthy lifestyle habits that we already talked about boost NAD, like calorie restriction and fasting and exercise. And you can also take the supplements that you mentioned. But I always want to mention and emphasize the link between NAD and the circadian rhythms, which most other people don't really talk about. and the link is in the resalvage of NAD. So you can make your NAD from food, and you can also recycle it on a daily basis. The process of recycling that NAD is linked to this enzyme called NAMPT, which is sirtuin-1 dependent, and that in turn itself is dependent on the circadian clock genes, clock and BMAL1. Those are basically determining the functioning of NAMPT. So if the clock system isn't operating properly, if your circadian rhythms are dysfunctional or not synchronized, you're not activating sirtuins, then this NAMPT enzyme will also be basically offline, and you're not going to be able to recycle your NAD levels, which will then basically accelerate the aging process because of that. Whereas if you have the circadian system aligned and the clock genes are working properly, then you will also have the ability to recycle your NAD at a higher rate and basically stay younger, or at least the NAD will help to increase the health span. I'm not sure whether or not NAD supplementation even could increase your lifespan, but I would imagine that it would certainly have a positive effect on the health span, so that you're postponing the hallmarks of aging for as long as possible if you have higher levels of NAD, especially in your later years. I don't think like younger people need to worry about that much, but in your later years, for sure, it's something to pay attention to, for sure, that how your NAD levels, like at what level are they at.
So can you have too high NAD levels? Let's say you're under 30 and you're hammering yourself with NMN and NR, and could that be like unbeneficial?
Well, I think yes, it could, because like NAD, similar to like autophagy, can be harmful. I think it's almost impossible to know like how much is too much, or we don't have like enough data about it yet. But like, for example, like some certain viruses can hijack NAD, and they can also hijack autophagy. So yeah, it's not that NAD itself is bad, it's just that it gets used for other bad things.
So you could be feeding like certain
viruses. I don't know like the exact, like how big the risk is or something. But yeah, in terms of the cancer side, that there was this association with higher NAD and the cancer or NAD supplementation and cancer in mice, but they were also like genetically modified to be predisposed to cancer. So there's no like human data about that.
So I'm just thinking about I do take NMN and nicotinamide riboside and even resveratrol, at times, but I don't want to do it all the time. My experience with 1 gram of NMN and 1 gram of trimethylglycine and 1 gram of resveratrol for 1 week was that I got so much energy that it actually, I don't know, it made me hyper energetic. It's like I had so much energy that I was kind of like wrecking myself, spending too much energy. So that was just my like N=1 experience. So maybe if you have high NAD levels and you have high energy, you don't need to do that or these kind of stuff until you're, let's say, 50s or 60s, or unless you measure and you quantify that you have lower NAD levels, which can be measured from the blood nowadays. And so quantifying that is also probably very wise.
Yeah, if you want to be sure, then you can measure it. Yeah. What I've noticed from the NAD supplementation is that my kind of sleep demand kind of just goes a bit lower. Yeah. Other than that, I haven't noticed like any more energy or something like that. But maybe it could be if I just haven't noticed.
Yeah.
So yeah, essentially the kind of the secret link between NAD is the circadian rhythms, and because the SIRT1 and NAMPT are circadian rhythm dependent, and with proper circadian rhythm alignment, you have higher NAD, and you also have this higher expression of this longevity epigenetics and a downregulation of the hallmarks of aging, which will result in increased health span. Whereas if the opposite is the case, where your circadian rhythms are disrupted, then the SIRT1 and NMPT are offline, your NAD levels will go down, longevity epigenetics goes down, and the hallmarks of aging increases, which results in accelerated biological aging. So yeah, kind of sticking to the day and night cycles kind of as much as possible, and avoiding constantly like jet lag and those kind of things is kind of
and
really
if you want to age fast, you go to be a nurse or a young doctor, ER doctor, and you certainly cut some life years out of your life. So I used to do that, not in 10 years anymore, but that wasn't nice to have a disrupted circadian rhythm. So it kind of messes like every system in your body.
Yeah, and obviously like sleep is important for just repairing the body, and bad sleep and short sleep will make you age faster. The problem is with age, you see this reduction in the sleep hormones and other hormones as well, the circadian hormones. So you're producing less melatonin, you're also producing less cortisol, which kind of flattens the circadian rhythms and creates less of this robustness, which will result in some this circadian rhythm mismatch, and as a result, lower NAD again, and just more aging. But fortunately, this has been found to be able to reverse it with calorie restriction, actually, and intermittent fasting. And the key point with that is, again, the NAD resynthesis. So calorie restriction helps with recycling NAD, and intermittent fasting helps with that. Exercise does it, and just sticking to the circadian rhythm itself helps to recycle the NAD. And basically, you're preserving your circadian clocks with that. So the circadian clocks will become damaged with age as a byproduct of aging, but you can maintain them and you can keep them healthier for longer if you have high NAD levels and you recycle high NAD on a daily basis. And things that wreck it are, again, shift work, circadian disruption, inflammation, lowers NAD, and damages the clocks, and jet lag as well.
What about melatonin as a supplement, as an anti-aging supplement?
I do think I do consider melatonin as a longevity hormone, and potentially as a longevity supplement as well. And I think that supplementing melatonin could be quite beneficial in your older years, for the elderly, because they do produce much less melatonin, and they do have shorter sleep, and they may get increase the risk of neurodegeneration because of that. The only some of the negative side effects of melatonin supplementation is it postpones puberty in children. But if you're in your 60s already, then you don't have to worry about it. And it also used like a contraceptive in high doses, in 75 milligrams is a contraceptive.
That's super 100.
Yeah.
Even 100 times of the normal production, or even 1,000 times. Yeah. So the body produces about maximum 80 micrograms of melatonin, and normal doses are 1 milligram, and I would just take 0.1 to 0.3 milligrams of melatonin just to mimic more of the natural production. And but of course you can measure that, and now in the Black Week we have the melatonin profile home test kit from the Nordic Laboratories, and this is now the cheapest price you will get. So this is something I did in my doctor's practice. I measured people's both the cortisol circadian rhythms, but also the melatonin rhythm. So if that's out of whack, so there's a lot of things that we can do, and this could be out of whack if you have difficulty of sleeping, depression, like the winter depression in the dark phases of the year, or you have MS or some kind of menstrual disorders, and it's easy to just test and see how your melatonin production is going on.
Yeah.
Anything else, Jim?
No, that was it for me.
That was it. Yeah, there's a lot of comments and questions. Mainly there's a conversation in your YouTube channel, but maybe we can pick something from here. So there's a good question regarding NAD supplements. So does your body stop natural production of NAD plus if you take it as a supplement? So basically, you're not taking NAD itself, but the precursors. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, you're not going to be able to, or there is possible to get NAD directly, but as like a IV.
Yeah. Oh yeah. IV therapy not available in Finland or I don't think it's probably in Estonia, maybe in the US. But if you take, let's say, NMN, which is like the precursor, straight precursor to NAD, does it have is it like a rate limiting step? If you take that, is your natural production going down, or is it just boosting the own production?
No.
Yeah. So it's
no, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not functioning like a hormonal with the hormonal feedback negative loop system. So this is just basically you're boosting the production and you're better.
Yeah.
Whether
it's like
probably
ATP, it's like ATP. Like you could take an ATP supplement
yeah.
as well.
I actually do take ATP, like peak ATP every now and then, as a like 30-day supply, and that's interesting to play around with, especially if you do like maximal strength training practices. So I think I see some kind of benefits from that, having a little bit more ATP available, but that's definitely not considered an anti-aging supplement.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's a lot of like conversation and stuff. What would seem your favorite supplements to promote health span and reverse aging?
Yeah. Well, my favorite supplement is glycine. So glycine is.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a great one. It's obviously it has benefits on methylation, and it helps to sleep. It helps to lower blood sugar and things like that, and lowers body temperature. But I think the biggest in terms of the longevity and the anti-aging context, then what glycine does, it helps to balance methionine, and excess methionine intake that you get from muscle meat and just lean proteins or just animal protein in general, you would excess methionine has been found to like accelerate aging and may cause some cancers. So you balance the methionine with the glycine, and the studies find that glycine supplementation can mimic methionine restriction. So you don't even need to restrict the methionine if you are getting enough glycine. And we don't really get that much glycine in our diet. We don't eat like foods that have glycine that much, unless you're eating like Jello every day and bones. Things like that. Then you are not getting like enough glycine from a diet. So just using it as a supplement, I think, it's very cheap.
Yeah,
it's a very tastes good, and it's a very healthy, I think.
I think it's a perfect sweetener, like without being sweet. And I discovered glycine as a supplement maybe a couple of years ago when I was, playing around what could help with sleep. So that was first from like magnesium glycinate, and then I began taking it more. So now I usually take like 6 to 8 grams like every evening, and usually some in the daytime. So I have this very nice electrolyte from Puhdas Plus from Finland. So it also contains, besides electrolytes, there's some glycine and some vitamin C. It's tasting really good, and the glycine is doing wonders. So I really love that. What else? Glycine, your number one.
Yeah, I would put there, maybe like a magnesium, some sort of magnesium there as well. I think is important. Not only because magnesium is that not only because that so many people are deficient in magnesium, but it's also just involved with so many other things, and you can reverse or counteract a lot of the hallmarks that may come from like excess damage and things like that with some regular glycine magnesium supplementation. Other ones I think is cool is like carnosine. that is a good kind of anti-aging supplement because it can block like advanced glycation end products, which is more relevant for like just the skin aging or the aging of your vascular system and the collagen tissue. So with too many advanced glycation end products, you're just going to have more wrinkles and stuff like that. So the carnosine can help to block that or counteract that.
There's a really nice supplement I've been taking for a while. It's called Ageless Defense, and that's from the same brand that produces the HRW, the hydrogen water company. So have you tried that?
Yes, I am taking it right now as well.
Yeah, so that's kind of like a proprietary blend of benfotiamine, curcumin, carnosine. What else? There's resveratrol,
Vitamin C.
vitamin C, and it seems to be really nice. And I find that it also stabilizes blood sugar like really well. And we haven't actually talked about age or like advanced glycation end products, and those seem to be also having an effect on aging of the body. No pun intended, or a pun intended. So, what's your take on AGs?
Well, I think your body is able to deal with it in some amounts, so it's not like all sugar is bad or that you need to avoid all glycation all the time. Your body is kind of very resilient, and if you have like glutathione and other defense systems working properly, then you should be able to deal with it in moderate amounts. But in excess, it's will be harmful. And if you don't have enough of these antioxidant defenses working properly, like you're deficient in nutrients, you may have like metabolic syndrome and diabetes and things like that. Then it's probably going to be too much. So yeah, like I don't think that sugar isn't the worst thing for aging. Like sugar is just a very almost like a very natural molecule itself that your body is very familiar with. It's able to know how to deal with it. It just becomes kind of toxic if it's in excess and high amounts.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking about the law of hormesis here. So there's a lot of stuff you can take, and doing too much of anything could be possibly harmful. That goes with different supplements, different foods, even red light, or you're not getting the result you want. What about actually if you go into photobiomodulation for a short time? Are there any studies on photobiomodulation, red light therapy, and aging?
Well, there are studies on the skin wrinkles and skin aging. So the red light is able to like even reverse some wrinkles after like 6 weeks or something.
Yeah.
So I do think it helps with the aging of the aesthetics aging. So to say, I don't know about the actual lifespan in terms of does it. Yeah. Because it doesn't really help with your like biomarkers. Like you're not going to see like a reduction in blood sugar by using the red light, and you're not going to see a reduction in triglycerides or a reduction in cholesterol or something like that if you just sit in the red light.
You are going to see a reduction in silent inflammation, reduction in the reactive oxygen species, and increase in nitrogen like NO production, and also increase in like mitochondrial density and or rather the ATP production. So in that sense, you are going to see something.
Yeah, you do see like better mitochondrial health and some benefits, but I don't think that it's going to be like super significant. Maybe like infrared sauna is probably better for that, because you can also get there's actually a study showing that the sauna is good for health span and longevity, and the infrared also gonna have some of those same effects similar as the red light.
Yeah, so that's super interesting. I've been playing around with infrared sauna. Actually, I've been going to infrared sauna 8 years almost every morning and every evening. So that's 2 times per day, and I find that to be one of the biggest reasons to be to have like a lot of energy, good recovery, uh, being overall being really healthy. So of course, doing too much of that, but it seems that there isn't that much of a like problem. If you get that sweat out, you don't want to really be there that much. And if I would do like regular like traditional Finnish or Estonian sauna bathing like 7 times per day per week, that would require a lot more effort, and you have to like heat the sauna like every day. I've also done that, but I don't find that to be as sustainable as would like a far infrared sauna be. So even like a couple of times per week is probably beneficial. So as it goes with the sauna study, if you think about that, if you have 4 or more sauna sessions per week, like traditional sauna bathing, that's the most powerful way to uh, lower your mortality rate.
And also like yeah, the studies all find that it's more than 4 times is the best, and that applies
Yeah.
to heart disease and neurodegeneration and depression and other things as well. So the more
All
sauna I
stuff.
take, almost the better it is.
Yeah. Okay. What else? Let's see. There's a lot of questions. What about thyroid health? Um, I know people age quite rapidly when they're like hypothyroidic, and I've
Mm,
seen that like with hundreds of patients in my
yeah,
like doctor's appointment. And having a good thyroid health, it's also one of the keys to healthy aging.
right. Yeah, well, that thing is somewhat contradictory or controversial a little bit. So on one hand, there is like some benefit to being a low thyroid in the context of like this calorie restriction and energy preservation. So if you are with a lower thyroid, then your metabolic rate will be lower, and in theory, you will also age a bit slower by doing that. But on the other hand, if you have low thyroid, then your risk of getting like metabolic syndrome and heart disease and bad biomarkers is also higher, because you're more easily gonna get obese and you have a because if you have a lower
Mm.
metabolic rate, and at the same time, like being a low thyroid will also raise your cholesterol levels, and yeah, obviously it's not gonna be, and maybe like you're gonna lose muscle more easily, or you can like osteoporosis potentially if you have like low thyroid all the time. So yeah, I think it's a very I don't know the exact answer. I think it's somewhere like in the middle. You don't want to be like low thyroid or hypothyroid for sure, but having like a super hyperthyroid may not be also the best
Yeah,
solution.
that's definitely gonna wear and tear you down. So
Yeah,
I think being hyperthyroid is even worse than being hypothyroid, because that's a it's not a state, physiological state you actually want to be in. But
yeah,
it's having a good hormonal balance, whether it's testosterone or like estrogen, progesterone, or growth hormone, or thyroid hormone, or insulin, or whatnot. It's all about having a good balance, not to be like overboard or underboard. Uh, Maybe one more thing regarding hormonal uh, balance. What do you think about TRT for older males in terms of aging, or rather anti-aging? Because I know that's a huge thing in the US.
hmm well, I think depends whether or not you need it. So to say, and whether or not it's fixable with other natural ways. So like being low testosterone is actually a very unhealthy, because yeah, your risk of again of obesity and metabolic syndrome and heart disease goes up by
Mm.
doing that, or by being that. So in a context of TRT, where you're still within the like the normal physiological range, and you're only bumping your testosterone back into like some middle point or something with TRT, I think it is healthier than being low testosterone. Whether or not you should take it or when you should take it is a different question. And what kind of other options have you used? If you haven't used anything else and you're just having low testosterone because of the bad lifestyle, then obviously fix the lifestyle first and see what happens. But if it's like, you are, let's say, in your 60s or something like that, then I think it could be a net positive in terms of that your biomarkers will be better, your health will be better, and I think your quality of life will also be better because you have like more energy and more like drive and stuff like that. So yeah, like in your 50s and 60s, maybe it would be for sure like a viable option. Should you do it before that? I think, yeah, that's a different question. Like most people may, feel better with TRT because they get more energy and more testosterone, but that's because their own natural testosterone levels are already very, very low. So you need to kind of be able to make sure that your natural stuff is still optimized before you do something else like that.
Yeah, there's a lot you can actually do about that. So just asking because I know that's a huge anti-aging trend in the US, and doctors prescribe TRT like it was maybe like metformin or something like that. So it's very typical to take TRT in the US. That's not really the case in Finland. It's more of the opposite. You have to be like begging, like have like a low testosterone or like a female level testosterone, and then even then you might not get the replacement. So that's also a different story. I know a lot of like health influencers who are maybe plus 50. They are like almost all are on TRT. So it's very interesting topic. So but again, we come into the point that having a good balance, not too high, not too low, is probably the way to go. So that's kind of finding the homeostasis. Good. So we have covered a lot of ground here, and I think we are almost good to end this show. A quick reminder about where we began this broadcast is the Biohacker Summit. You have now 5 days left to get the super or early bird ticket, one for 197, or if you buy 2 or more, 167, or 3 or more, 147. So the most affordable thing to enjoy and come to the Biohacker Summit is to get yourself and your friends with a ridiculous price. And if you really want to have a superior experience, the VIP ticket, that's also includes you into the upgrade dinner and a lot of very private stuff. And Optimized Day workshop, that's really something you want to experience if you haven't had one yet. So everything from morning into midday, into afternoon, into evening, how you can optimize your day living with the biohacking life. And of course our after party, which are or have been really wonderful parties, and I've been enjoying those absolutely into my fullest, and being able to have a DJ gig there, so I'm also doing that, and everything in between in the biohackersummit.com. And we have the Black Week continues the whole week. Of course, the Black Friday is probably the biggest day. There's a lot of stuff coming, even up to minus 75%. And every day we have a different theme. Yesterday was optimize sleep. Today is work and performance. Tomorrow is going to be optimize nutrition, and there's brain health. Friday is something I'm not going to reveal yet. We have special webinars coming on Friday. And on Saturday, you can fix your gut. And Cyber Monday is also going to be special. So we have 2 more webinars coming up, even within a week. Anything to close this session, Siim Land?
Well, I think when it comes to health span, you can all the health span is mostly achievable with the fundamentals: the diet, exercise, sleep, circadian rhythms, and stress management, and nutrient density, and those kind of things. You can easily maintain your health span with that. Whether or not it's going to make you live longer, that's like a different thing question. I don't think I don't think like the natural things gonna increase your like lifespan exponentially. Like you're not gonna be able to live to 120 by just exercising and doing like that unless you have good genetics. But you will certainly have like many more healthy years in your life, so that you can still play around with your grandchildren in your like 70s and 80s, and make your own food, and I don't know, walk around easily.
Yeah, move easily. Like just I think it's really crucial to be able to move. As I watch, let's say my parents, my father is 75. He looks like he's 55, like super healthy. Still got some like a good physical condition, and my mother is also like very healthy, a bit younger, and they have the energy to play around with my daughter, 6 years old, the whole day. Of course, they might be a little bit exhausted, but being able to play with a child who has an immense amount of energy, that's also a good measure if you're if your energy levels are on point and you're aging on a healthy way.
Mhm.
So thanks a lot for joining us, and thanks Siim Land. And remember to go to Biker Summit, book your tickets to the best biking conference in the world with over 6 years of experience. Let's reverse aging and extend health span. And the Bikers Live Show is signing out. And see you on Friday.
Bye.
Bye.
Also.